Friday, everyone. Your real worth isn't defined by your net worth. What makes you valuable is how you use what you have been given. All of us have gifts. Make sure you're making the most of yours. Have an amazing Friday.
It is now the bottom of the hour. I'm excited to welcome Nancy Matthews to our program today. Nancy is an author of a book. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel for you guys. There it is, The One Philosophy. I want to talk to Nancy not only about the re-release of the book, but also what it's been like for her to share the message with all of you guys. Nancy, great to have you on with us.
Hello, hello, hello. So happy to be here.
Help Heal Humanity is an internationally registered charity mindfully designed to provide the world's most vulnerable communities with access to education, food, support, and love. We build the infrastructure, develop the programming, and foster the global connections necessary to support the charity and future of the people in our project countries. Through unconditional giving, Help Heal Humanity achieves its mission to inspire and love those in need in a compassionate and sustainable way. Our vision is to make conscious giving a widespread global practice through kindness and servitude. Get involved now and be part of our Help Heal Humanity family.
Good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao. Hola. Buongiorno. Bienvenue. Wan Ying. Bienvenidos. Benvenuta. And welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And each week, I get an incredible opportunity to take you on a journey to places you've never been before, to hear stories you've never heard before. Each week, I get one magnificent moment to take you on a mental, physical, and spiritual adventure into the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry. Gemstones have been here from the beginning of time. Empires have been created. Kings and queens have gemstones have represented their power and their reign. And I use all those stories as a template, as a bridge, as an inception point to get you to begin to discover the value of your own stories. First of all, I'm back. I'm back in the United States. And I am so happy because this is the first episode of the third year of Gem Hunter Stories. And I want to start by just thanking each and every one of you, those of you who are part of my Gem Hunter family, the GHF, for those of you who don't know what it means when I put it on Facebook, Gem Hunter family, for your support, for your love, and most of all, for your comments and your questions. Those of you who said at the end of my show, Barry, I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you, because it was those questions that made me think about, really sit back and reflect on not only just what gemstones mean to me, but how can I tell that story? How can I get you to understand the significance that gemstones have in your life? And I'm not talking about something that just wearing it or carrying it around. Today, as I begin this new season, I wanted to I've been thinking a lot about just how I got here. And Barbara, go ahead and bring up my slide for me, please. The title of today's show, the theme, the essence of today's show is how to manifest your dreams. And there's a lot of books and videos, and God, if you Google this, you probably get 100 million different comments. But how do you manifest your dreams? And I found that, at least in my experience, a lot of people talk about manifesting your dreams, but they don't necessarily tell you how. Or if they tell you how, they say it in such a way, kind of like pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And there's some truth to that, but that's not how to really, to me, the easiest way to manifest your dreams. When you look at last week, we were talking about 2 weeks ago, we were literally talking about paradigm shifts. We were talking about Thomas S. Kuhn and how Thomas S. Kuhn said that a paradigm is something that you believe in. And you've been believing it for a long time because people told you that, or you researched that. And a paradigm shift is when you see something, experience something in a different way, in such a profoundly different way that you begin to look at the world in a different way. And one of the best examples of that is what Galileo did when Galileo told the world that the earth is not, or never has been, the center of the solar system, that the sun and the planets and the moon don't revolve around the earth. It's the sun that we as a planet and all the rest of the planets and moon rotate around the sun. And that was a paradigm shift. So when I'm thinking about what to talk about this week, when I was thinking about, the word that came to my mind was manifestation. Manifestation. And part of that is because of what the gemstone of this month is, what the two gemstones of this month, but we'll talk about, the two gemstones for this month is citrine and topaz. So happy birthday to those of you who were born this month, November. And the gemstone for November is citrine. One of them is citrine. Citrine, for those you don't know, is just a beautiful yellowish to goldish reddish gemstone. It is a silicon oxide. So remember last time we were talking about silicon oxide, and I told you that silicon oxide is those two elements, silicon and oxygen, are the most abundant elements on Earth. There's no elements that are more readily available than silicon and of course oxygen. So what citrine is, just like opal, just like amethyst, just like a lot of other gemstones, they are a silicon oxidate. Okay, that's what it is. Silicon dioxide. Abundant, ubiquitous. That's what citrine is. And what most people don't realize about citrine is when you look at citrine, what you're looking at is rare. A natural citrine is extremely rare. So to get a gemstone that color, you need something else. To get a gemstone that looks like that, to find that naturally is very rare. So what most of the citrine that you have seen in your life came from amethyst. Amethyst also is a silicon oxide. Amethyst of the quartz, which is what silicon dioxide is, quartz, what we identify as quartz, rock crystal, all these. So amethyst is the most valuable of the silicon oxide gemstones that's out there. And what you have to do with amethyst is you have to heat it. You have to heat amethyst. Now, if you have amethyst of that quality that you're looking at the screen right now, more than likely the lapidary or the person who cut the gemstones would just leave, or the miners would just mine that gemstone, mine that amethyst, and leave it as is. But a lot of amethyst, which is extremely available, is still rare, but it's very much more readily available than citrine. Amethyst that really doesn't have that gem quality would be heated. So if you take amethyst, again, silicon dioxide, amethyst, if you look at this, the only thing that's purple is the tips of the pyramids is the prisms. That's the amethyst that we regard. It's the purple color. And what we do is we heat treat it. We heat treat that amethyst. We heat treat it to a temperature of anywhere from 878 to 1040 degrees. That's what it takes to make citrine. So, how does that relate to us? And the thing I started thinking about as I came to this topic, and let me just go back to getting you to understand how the gem hunter stories come, not so much how it came about in the beginning. I've told you that story, but what happens to me every week I do this show, which is really part of the magic. Every week when I finish a show, I usually think to myself, okay, what's next? What's the next part of the story? And what's really interesting about this journey, this 3 years journey that I've taken with you. Remember how not remember, each week I say to you that I'm going to take you on a journey. Well, the journey really starts with me. Because each week when I finish my show, I start thinking to myself, okay, what's next? What's next? And what normally happens is something either I've seen or experienced, or just the next gemstone in the cycle of gemstones for each month comes to me. And even though I have studied citrine for God knows how long, it wasn't until this time that I really began to understand what citrine is on a higher level. Citrine is the gemstone of manifestation. It is the gemstone of manifestation. It is the gemstone of increased personal willpower. It is the gemstone of mental, increase mental activities, increase creative powers. This is the gemstone of all those attributes. And the question that came to my mind in preparing this show is, who made that decision? Who made the decision that citrine should represent those qualities, those attributes of manifestation? Those of you, I mean, the symbol, literally the symbol of the gem hunter. This right on this side, I got to get my on this side. This yellow stone right here is citrine. I put that as one of the gemstones, the 4 gemstones that are the representation of the gem hunter. But it's not really now until I began to truly understand the significance of why citrine is the gemstone of manifestation. And the question that I have, and the question I'm asking all of you, is who made that decision? Citrine is one of the oldest gemstones. Citrine was used all the way back to 300 BC. The Romans and the Greeks used citrine extensively during the 1st and 2nd centuries of the world. So the belief of citrine being a gemstone of manifestation has been a belief that has existed for thousands of years. And the question is, one, who made that decision? And two, how can we use that power to empower our own lives? How can we use the power of citrine or amethyst or any of the other gemstones, topaz, which we'll be talking about next week? How can we use that power in our own lives? Why did jewelry came as a result of what people believe? When you look at citrine, you don't necessarily say to yourself, oh, okay, this is a gemstone of manifestation. There you go. Honey, pick that up. Yeah, we have that new house we need. There you go. Get that citrine and it will happen to us. No, that's not how it works. Many of us have citrine jewelry. And yet citrine doesn't immediately or automatically imbue this power of manifestation. Like, if you bought a whole bunch of citrine and you played the last Powerball, that you were guaranteed to get $2 billion. No. Citrine is about a belief. All the gemstones are about a belief in what they are. And the power in that, when you really think about it, is how is it that something that was told way back 300 BC, the 1st and 2nd century, we're talking about cultures from thousands of years ago, and yet today there are books just like this book, the Book of Stones. Who are they and what they teach? And it clearly says that citrine opens the inner doors to increase clarity of thought, enhance creativity, magnified powers of will and manifestations. It is one of the premier stones for the 2nd chakra and capable of awakening the powers of creative imagination in even the most unconscious individuals. This is what's written in the Book of Stones by Robert Simmons and Nashia Asian. And I got lots of books just like this. So how is a concept or belief that took place that started in 300 BC, how is that still being taught and written about and read and understood and researched in 2022? And that's when I began to understand the power of it, because it's about a story. It's about a story. What if the same processes that it took to make citrine what citrine is the same processes that you can use in your own life? What if you told yourself, and I say this I've been saying this for the last 3 years, and I'm hoping it maybe becomes clearer. How is it that you can take a gemstone? This is citrine. This is citrine. How is it that you can take a gemstone like this, a basic silicon dioxide, quartz, a higher level of quartz? How can you take that and make that into this? That same process that took that gemstone that started out looking like this to become this is the same process that you can do within your own life. You can create a story. That's why I say each week to discover the value of your story. Because once upon a time, someone came across amethyst. They saw this pretty purple gemstone in a cave or rock formation, and they said, okay, I like that. I like that. That's purple. And those of you who are into purple and prints, I was like, yes, purple. Purple is the gemstone, is the color of royalty. So kings and queens and courts all over the world believed in the power of amethyst. They believed in that purple color. There were kingdoms that wouldn't even allow anybody to wear the color purple because it was believed that that color purple was closer to God, and that the only people who could wear that color or wear amethyst are people of royal rank. That was the belief. And thousands of years later, we still represent purple, still represents royalty. So how is it that someone took that, once upon a time, someone took that amethyst and said, what happens if we heat it? Now you have to understand how long that process took, because 300 BC, they didn't know about elements. They didn't know about atoms. They didn't know about molecular formulas. They didn't know that there was this thing called silicon and this thing called oxygen. The concept of oxygen didn't even really happen until the 16th century. Lavoisier, who was French, Lavoisier invented. So how did that all come together? How did people believe in citrine being the gemstone of manifestation thousands of years ago that still hold today? And I submit to you, because it's a story. Because someone once upon a time told a story, and they told that story again and again and again and again, and that story manifests into what you believe today. So the purpose of today's show is to tell you that I know that you can use that same process that is used to develop not just citrine, but all the gemstones. You can use that same process for yourself in your mind. You can decide what color you want to be. You can decide what shape you can be. You can decide that how you can become this. This is who you may feel you are right now, just a rough gemstone. And from that rough gemstone, you can become this. You can become something more, because again, the lapidary, when he or she first got the stone, this is what it looked like. This is what it looked like when they first got it. This is who you are. Wherever you are in your life, if you feel that you are not fulfilling what you want to do in your life, you are a rough gemstone. You are this with a certain molecular structure. And you have to make it in your mind. You have to see it that rough gemstone, who you are, can become that. Can become something more. And the only way you get there is by understanding the power of stories. People who are born in November They have been told from as long as they can remember that November is the gemstone for citrine and topaz. They've been told that. Someone, they read it in a book, they saw it in a pamphlet, they saw it somewhere. Oh yeah, you're November, oh you're topaz. People who are into, like my good friend Ashley Irving, who is into she's a gemologist, and a colleague of mine, she's a gemologist, but she's into a lot of the metaphysics. And if you ever see her Facebook post, she's talking about the metaphysics of it and astrology and numbers and things like this. But someone taught her that, and now she teaches other people. She tells that same story. So how can you not use that or understand that you use that same process to develop who you are? Wherever you are in your life, you could take what you are. You can give it. Citrine is basically the a variation of comes from the French word citron. So someone saw a lemon. When you buy a lemon, that's normally known as something bad, or you buy a lemon. But someone saw that lemon. Someone saw that brightness of color. Someone saw the similarities of that color that you see in lemons and decided that a gemstone had those colors and represented something higher. That this is the gemstone of manifestation. This is the gemstone of heightened creative imagination. That if you wore this gemstone on your body, on your necklace, on your rings, in your earrings, that you would be imbued with those talents. So what I'm here to say today is that even if you don't have a citrine in your possession, you could still reach that level. You can still use that same process of manifestation to manifest the dreams that you have in your life. And the reason why I know this is because of this book, As a Man Thinketh. See, as I've told you many times again before, that 30 years ago, I was homeless. And the only thing I had was just my clothes and a duffel bag and this book stuffed in the side. And As a Man Thinketh taught me, as I was reading about As a Man Thinketh, I began to really understand, not right away. I've lived with this book for 30 years. 30 years. And that's the reason why I'm talking about it today, is because it's about manifestation. How did someone who lived, I read this book in a dumpster 30 years ago on Jackson Boulevard, those of you familiar with Chicago, right next to DePaul University. And I read this book every day, and it says it right here. Though your circumstances may be uncongenial, they shall not long remain so of you, but perceive an idea and strive to reach it. Perceive an idea and strive to reach it. You cannot travel within and stand still without. You cannot believe in who you are, in your spirit, in your mind. You cannot believe that in the universe not take you to where you need to get to. Manifestation. Here is a youth hard pressed by poverty and labor, confined long hours on an unhealthy workshop, unschooled and lacking all the arts of refinement. But he or she dreams of better things. You think of it. He thinks of intelligence, of refinement, of grace and beauty. He thinks of it. He conceives of and mentally builds up an ideal condition of life. The vision of a wider liberty and a larger scope takes possession of him. Unrest urges him to action, and he utilizes all his spare time and means, small though they are, to the development of his latent powers and resources. Very soon, so altered has his mind become that the workshop can no longer hold him? It has become so out of harmony with his mentality that it falls out of his life as a garment, is cast aside. And with the growth of opportunity, he reaches a whole new level. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how you can pass out of it forever, because that's what is in the book. And we're going to talk about that more on the other side. Thank you. Like that commercial said, you have to change your perception. I just wanted to read that last part. Unrest urges him to action, and he utilizes all his spare. In fact, you know what? I want to elevate women. So let me change the pronoun. Unrest urges her to action. She utilizes all her spare time and means, small though they are, to the development of her latent powers and resources. Very soon, so altered has her mind become that the workshop can no longer hold her. It has become so out of harmony with her mentality that it falls out of her life as a garment, is cast aside. And with the growth of opportunity, with the growth of opportunity fit the scope of her expanding powers, she passes out of it forever. How is that different than what we believe in this gemstone called citrine? You believe in it. You bought this gemstone for yourself or for somebody else because somewhere along the line, that gemstone spoke to you. That color. Maybe you knew what it was made out of and you said to yourself, I want something that demonstrates, that represents the growth that I have made. So you bought yourself a citrine. You like the way it interacted with the sunlight and that beautiful gold color. And you made up your mind. You told yourself a story. That's how you manifest your dreams. You tell yourself a story. You tell yourself not about other people. It's not about being a Toastmaster. It's not about being, a professional storyteller speaker. If you want to, the most important person that you have to tell that story to is to yourself. Whatever you want to be, whatever you want to consider, this is what you have to see. You have to see the individual facets that make up your life. You have to see how you went through the process to become who you are. As I said, amethyst, which is a beautiful gemstone, but you didn't want to become an amethyst. That's not the direction of your life. So you went through things. You went through your process. You went through amethyst has to be heated to 800 to 1,000, over 1,000 degrees. You've gone through that. You've gone through that treatment process. You were heat treated. You were irradiated. You were hit with nuclear bombardment in some kind of way in your life to become the gemstone. This was amethyst once upon a time. Look at it now. Now it's citrine. How can we use that mental process of manifestation in our own lives. How can we do that? That's how you have to tell yourself a story, ladies and gentlemen. You have to. And because that's the only way you get to value. Think about it. Think about it. Anything that's in your house, take 30 seconds right now and think about if you could only take one thing out of your house right now. One thing. And you brought out that one thing. I don't care what it was. I don't care. It was a pen. This is a pen. This is a Sharpie pen. Great pen. There's a side of that. Great pen. Make billions of these pens. But if I told you that this pen was the pen that got me, that I used to sign off on my paperwork to join the United States Marine Corps. The United States Marine Corps' birthday is tomorrow. 40 years ago, I joined the United States Marine Corps. That changed my life with this pen. This pen would have a whole completely different value because of the story behind it. How can you use that same power in your life? That's what As a Man Thinketh was talking about. That's the secret. That's the, when I competed in the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2012, the title of my speech was In the Winter of 1992, where I told the story of me being homeless. And I didn't win. I didn't even place. And part of the problem with my speech, and I see it now, I didn't see it then, was most people could not believe that I got out of homelessness because of this book. They couldn't believe it. They would have been more accepting of the Bible, of course, okay? Which again, I will say, God didn't give me the Bible. God gave me this book. And what I've been told by people who read the Bible is that everything that's in this book is in the Bible. So thank you. But what this book told me, that if I begin to change my thoughts, if I begin to believe differently, that my life would change. So as I was sitting, as most of you know, I just came back from a whole month in France. I was standing on the Pyrenees Mountains the day before my birthday, October 7th. This is where I was. And I'm looking at the beauty. God was right there. You could see it. You could feel it. And something told me when I was packing, something told me to bring my book with me. Something told me that this was the manifestation. This was the manifestation that this book said that would happen. It said it. Understand that I read this book in a dumpster. In a dumpster. I remember starting reading, it was like a Thursday night. And here I am with this same book in my hand, because in this book it said, years later, we see this youth as a full-grown man. We find him a master of certain forces of the mind, which he wields with worldwide influence and almost unequal power. A friend of mine, Bertram, who watches, hey, Bertram, he asked me when I was quoting this to him, he says, are you reading this? I said, no, I don't have to read it. It's in me. He find him a master of certain forces of the mind, which he wields with worldwide influence and almost unequal power. In his hands, he holds the cords of gigantic responsibilities. He speaks, and lo, Lives are changed. Now, understand that I'm standing in the border between Spain and France, speaking to children all over the world. Understand that I read that quote 30 years ago. In his hands, he holds the cords of gigantic responsibilities. He speaks, and lo, lives are changed. Men and women hang upon his words and remold their characters, and sunlight, he becomes the fixed and luminous center around in which innumerable destinies revolve. He has realized the vision of his youth. He has become one with his ideal. And I want you to hear those words. I want you to understand that I read that every single day for years. Most of the time, every hour on the hour, because the thing that I got first, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand, how did he go from nothing to he speaks and lo, lives are changed? How did that happen? And somewhere along my journey, by studying gemstones, I began to understand that it's about a story. That's the thing. That's what this show is about, understanding that the same processes, the same thought processes that took the same beliefs, the same way you believe that that a citrine is the stone of manifestation, the same way you believe that citrine is the stone of increased personal will power, that creative imagination. There's so many people today watching this show who were born in November sitting there like, man, yeah, you know what my gemstone is? They're going to tell other people. You know, that's what's going to happen. Yes. Yes. Yes, Luana, that's what happens if you believe it. If you believe that's in your head, the light comes. You cannot travel within and stand still without. The reason why I stand there on the Pyrenees Mountains that's been around for 65 million years, I'm standing there with that book because I changed my thoughts. Because of the story that I began to tell myself over and over and over and over and over again for years, for decades. I don't know when it's going to happen. I can't sit here and tell you, oh, well, yeah, it happened and it took me 2 years and I was here. No, but what I can tell you, what I can testify to you is this is what happens when you begin to believe in your own story. And you can take it any way you want to take it. You can, and what makes us more powerful than gemstones is that we can decide what color we want to be. We can decide what shape we want to be. We can decide what weight we want to be. Remember, in gemology, a carat means weight. So that you could be a 10, 20, 30, 100 carat diamond. But the key thing is that you believe it. We live in a world where people don't value anything, really. And I begin if you began to believe your own story, if you begin to understand that a citrine, whether you like it or not, doesn't change the fact that it's made out of silicon oxide and that it was heated to a temperature of 1,000 degrees. And therefore, because it has that color, therefore it is now citrine. It is what it is. You are an example of the process that you had to go through to become. The shaping, the faceting, the colors, the inclusions, the impurities. All those things made you who you are. And wherever you are in your life, you can change it. Not just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and come on, let's do this. It's you. You got to change your thought process. As those of you for the last 3 years have seen my evolution. You've seen it. I know you have because I'm different. Whew. The anger is gone. The anger, the rage that I used to have in my heart is gone. Not because I don't get angry or anything else, not because I still don't believe and understand the concept of Darth Vader, but because I know now that I have the power to change that. I now know that I have the power to think differently because this book, and whether you got the message through this book or the Bible or whatever the book, whatever the music, whatever the movie, whatever the commercial, whatever it is that makes that paradigm shift for you. We now know, those of us who, I'm 62 years old. Well, last month I'm 62 years old. And I now know that I am in control. Yeah, I still got bills to pay. Yeah, the bank still owns my car. There's that. But I am in control in the way I process that information, the way I make the decision on how I'm going to interact with the light, just like a gemstone. Just like a gemstone. And where we are better than gemstones is that you make the decision. You make the decision to decide. Yes, Luanda, you have to power your thoughts. Because that's how we believe. How many times have you bought something? Whether it be an Apple computer or whether it be a new pair of Lubus, okay? Ladies, if you spend $1,500 on a pair of heels, you expect to feel differently. Why? Not because those shoes make you. Remember the old commercials? I'm really dating myself. Remember the old commercials for PF Flyers? The first, like when sneakers first, Converse. PF Flyers used to be a sneakers. Their advertisement went, buy PF Flyers. They'll make you run faster and jump higher. And I remember when my mother bought me a pair of PF Flyers, I ran through the neighborhood, jumping over anything I could jump over because I believed that those gem shows, just cheap. You would buy them at Payless now. They were nothing. But for me, a kid living in Harlem, New York, when my mother bought me those new pairs of PF Flyers, I believed that I could run faster and jump higher because I believed it. I believed it. And I think we live in a world where that is more necessary than anything. We're going through deaths. We're going through poverty. We're going through inflation. We got wars going on. We got people talking about nuclear weapons like it's just, oh yeah, well, whatever. So now is the time. Now is the time to reflect in your own self, or what stories are you telling yourself? And it has to be your story. Yeah, you can go to different companies or different, gurus or different people to tell you, but ultimately it's the story that you have to tell about yourself. If you bought a citrine today because of something that I said, if you bought a citrine today because you said to yourself, oh, you believe that citrine is the gemstone of manifestation, if you believe that, then you're going to wear that gemstone with that power. You're going to do things. You're going to do things in your daily actions that manifest that belief. That first diamond tennis bracelet that I sold that woman, and I told you a couple of years ago how she looked at it. She looked at her arm as if it was a brand new arm, because she believed that necklace imbued her with power. So what story? Think about today. as we celebrate again so many different things. But again, thank you for being here on the first episode of my third season. I couldn't have done it with you without you. And your homework assignment today is to sit back and not just look at the value of your story, really take your story apart. Look at your story. Take the pieces that make your story more valuable. Take your pieces to understand that it's those pieces, the good and the bad stuff of your life, that will help you manifest your dreams. Your dreams are the manifestation of the story that you tell yourself. And that's what I want people to understand. It's a paradigm shift. And you decide on how you're going to interact with the light. And you can become anything you want to become. So as always, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemological storyteller, and my mission, my hope, the promise that I made to God is that I want to spend the rest of my life helping people discover the value of their own stories. I'll see you next week. Au revoir. Atatella. Voila.